join me to extend our gracious welcome to distinguished Toastmaster Alexandre Matte.
Hello, Sulamat Malat. Is this thing on?
It is.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, okay.
Great. Good to know. All right. Let me just put you back in gallery mode. I want to see everybody. If everybody who has not turned on their camera yet, you can do it. That would be great. You know, I participated in the World Championship of Public Speaking last August, and I did not see the audience. It was sad. It was challenging to try to reach the audience while I did not see them. But even so, some people who were either at home or even in Nashville, they said they were surprised. Really, you didn't see us, but it looked like you were interacting with us, truly. So how did I do it? Well, there are some tricks. But let me bring you back first of what I was doing at the beginning of the year 2020. I am a youth storyteller. I tell stories to young audiences, especially in schools. I started my career just at the beginning of 2020, and I was set to go to 20 different schools in 3 different provinces in Canada. So it was going really well. And just as the trips were starting, in March of 2020, all the schools closed down. Yeah, so my new career suddenly was over just as it started. Well, just like our Toastmasters clubs all over the world, things went online. And the schools, the school boards, the funders, the partners, they asked, well, can you do this online? Everything's going online now, you can surely do it too. And I thought about it for about 2 seconds before saying, no, impossible. Do you think children are able to follow us online? No, they're unable to do that. I will wait for 1 month or 2 until the pandemic is over, and then we will go back in schools. 1 or 2 months later, it was even worse. But something strange happened. The children who were now following school at home, they were understanding their lessons. They were listening to their teachers. They were interacting with other students online. Well, as I saw what my children were able to do, I thought, well, maybe we should try this with all of the schools in Canada. So with my storytelling partner, we adapted our workshop to be able to give it online. Now, let me tell you, it was really difficult at first because we were stuck in this box. What can we do in this box? We are so limited by what we can do. We can't move all around. I can't reach the audience or the children as much. Sometimes they didn't hear us. Sometimes we didn't hear them. But week after week, workshop after workshop, we found ways, creative ways of reaching them. And doing this for 2 years in front of hundreds of students and children with dozens of different schools, high schools, universities, I think I managed to pick up some tools and to develop tricks to reach the audience online. And by the way, if you haven't presented to children, you should know that children are the hardest audience ever. I see some of you may have tried. Yeah, right, Adina? So if you're able to reach children online or offline, you'll be able to reach anyone. You know, even especially high school students, they will tell you if you're boring. So I transposed those skills from the classroom to the speech contest. As the speech contest was all online, at first, just the same as with the schools, I thought, I don't want to do this. I want to be able to reach people by speaking to them directly. I need to see their faces. I need to hear their reactions. If I'm here, I can't do this. I can't transmit a message while I am stuck in this box. But eventually I came to embrace it, just as I did with the workshops in schools. And you know, there's something really interesting about having these limitations. Let me show you something. If I can. Excuse me, I just lost my presentation. There it is. Pardon. There. Now, if you want to follow along with this short presentation, you can use your smartphone and scan this QR code, or go to menti.com and enter the code that is right there. So what I want to show you is how is what I call think inside the box. Now, I didn't invent this, unfortunately. I can't take credit for it, but it's something that already exists. You may have heard of the concept thinking outside the box, right? So when you have to find a creative solution or a new solution to a problem, well, what about thinking inside the box? That's when you have fewer options or more restrictions. But what happens in the creative sector is, interestingly enough, Dr. John Spencer says it this way. He's an expert in creativity. He says, the simplicity and lack of options actually unleash the power of creativity. Or in other words, if I want to use fewer words to say the same thing, great innovations come from great limitations. There are things that you can do inside your box that you cannot do outside of the box. There are things that you can do on Zoom that you cannot do on a stage. And there are some great examples from the World Championship of Public Speaking. I will show you two of them. Here is Nitai Yair Levy, the second place winner in the World Championship of Public Speaking last year. Before I press play, I'd better check that I was sharing the sound. Voila. Nitai is bringing you back in time.
Travel back in time. Ready? I'm 17. I'm in love.
So he brilliantly used the camera to bring you back in time for that effect. Could Nitai have done this on a big stage in front of hundreds of people? Let's go back in time. No, it's silly. It doesn't work. He would try to do something else if he was on stage, but he used the camera to his advantage. He was thinking inside the box. Now, let's see what this other guy did. You may recognize him. Another second place winner. Last year. You want a piece? I can give you one. Just reach out and take it. There you go. Yes, take it. It's for you. take it as a reminder of the importance of traditions. Could I have done that on a stage, Carlina? No, eh? Well, I could have tried. Here, would you like a piece? Here, catch, take it. Sorry. No, it would have been too aggressive, I think. I would have tried to do it differently if I was on a stage. But because I was online, I wanted to find a way to think inside the box. See, that's what I mean. I mean to be more creative, not in spite of your limitations, but because of the limitations. Great innovations come from great limitations. You can find your way to be more creative inside the box. So now we've got the concept. I'll go briefly. I want to give as much time as possible to questions. So I just want to mention one thing before going on to the interaction concept. Okay, so I saw two prepared speeches today. And Yana, and and Dinda, right? Now, you were both sitting down. You probably noticed in the World Championship of Public Speaking that all the online speakers are standing up. So that's the first thing that I will recommend to anybody doing any presentations. And even if you're just participating in the meeting with table topics, try it. Try standing up. But if you do stand up, I don't want to see up your nose. When you stand up, your camera should stand up as well. In other words, the camera should be at eye level. Use boxes. Use boxes if you need to raise your laptop, or put your camera on a tripod, or anything that you have at home. And another thing, now let me show you the setup that I had for the final of the World Championship of Public Speaking. I was lucky. I was inside of a professional photo studio for the final. So you see the lighting, you see I have a special tripod just for the laptop, and my camera is also on a different tripod. But you might not have this sort of setup at home. It's okay. You don't need to have a professional setup, and you don't need to spend a lot of money to look professional. Here I am, when I was on the road and I had a presentation, I was in a hotel room. I didn't bring any equipment except my camera and my laptop. So I used the lighting that was there. I put two lights in front of me, one small light in the back of me for the backlight. And what's that? That is a table to iron your clothes. That's where I put my laptop, and the camera is on top of a garbage can, on top of a recycling can, on top of the night table that I moved just for that. I used what was there to look as professional as possible. So if you need more lighting for yourself, you might just find a table lamp that's lying around somewhere in your home. So I have tried to have a good presentation, and being able to reach people online. It starts with good technical setup. Otherwise, you might have some distractions that take away from what you're really saying. So how about we go now to how to interact with people, even if you don't see them. See, that was the big challenge for me this year, and the other online contestants as well. You know, in the past 2 years, it was an online contest. So everyone who was participating, they had the same challenges, trying to reach people while they were at home, and the contestant was at home as well. And in fact, if you don't know, the World Championship in the past 2 years was pre-recorded. The audience didn't even see the speech as the speakers were speaking. That's something else. But this year, the past year, just 2022, it was live and it was hybrid. So while I was at home or wherever I was in a studio, there were hundreds of people in Nashville watching live on big screens. And there's a challenge because you never know how the audience is going to react. And if there's a really funny line, they might laugh uncontrollably. And it's much more difficult for an audience of hundreds of people to stop laughing than it is for one person at home. And by the way, I love what Richard says about reaching 1% at a time, changing lives 1% at a time. Now, here's an interesting concept. Think about this. When you're speaking and you're influencing someone, as Dinda suggested, if you're doing it online, it's like you're talking to one person only, because this camera acts like the eyes of the audience. Now, if you have this sort of contact with one person, imagine multiplying that by 71. Suddenly, it's like you're talking to one person 71 times. And if you have the great opportunity to speak at the international convention, and you can speak to hundreds of people who are on site and thousands of people watching at the same time online, it's like you're talking to thousands of individuals all at once. Now, see, this is one of the magical elements of speaking online, because you're using that camera as the eyes of the audience. There is a potential to be more effective online than on site. So let's think about that next time you have a chance to present online and there's many people watching you at once. You may be reaching one person at a time, but thousands of people simultaneously. So there's the challenge. How do I know how they're reacting? How do I know when to stop talking and when to start talking again if I don't see them? Well, luckily today I do see you. So this is not a big issue. If I say something funny and I see you laugh, or I see you nodding like before, I know that I'm reaching you. But if I don't see you at all, then, as I did with the World Championship, I have two suggestions or two strategies that I used. The first one is simple. It is rehearsal. Preparing for the World Championship, I went to 30 different clubs. Most of them were hybrid, because I wanted to see the impact of my speech in a crowd. And even as I was rehearsing in front of the camera, my screen was on, and I could see from the corner of my eyes, and I could even record the audience reactions to study them later. So I knew when people were reacting. I knew when I needed to slow down or start talking again. I knew if my jokes were working or not. I knew when people were really thinking or reacting or even crying sometimes. Which means that by the time I made it to the semifinals and the finals of the World Championship, those images of people reacting, they were in my mind, and I could imagine them. If you have a big presentation that you need to give that is hybrid, but you maybe won't see the audience, rehearse a few times, preferably in front of different audiences, to see their reactions and to put those reactions in your mind. And the second, well, this is something that I found out, I developed just as I was going into the semifinals, because I realized that sometimes you will say something funny, or you think it's funny, but the audience won't react. Or the audience will react much more than you think. Mark Brown in 1995, when he was in the World Championship, he said a line that was not meant to be funny. It was serious. But the audience laughed for 6 full seconds. If he had been online, he would have missed that laugh and he might have stepped over it. So when you have something that is potentially very thought-provoking or funny, here, I'll show you the example, and then I will tell you what I mean. Oh, you know what? Let's look at this first. This is Cyril Jr. Dim. You might have heard of him. He's the world champion of public speaking. Now see how the audience reacts when he says something funny and how he reacts to that reaction.
In Zimbabwe, we speak Shona. And in this beautiful language, we have winding.
He's complaining about his long name.
Nigerian name. Because my father, whom I never knew, was Nigerian. Now, yes, I may know a Nigerian prince or two. But back then, I didn't want a Nigerian name. I wanted a cool name, like Martin Luther King Jr. or Contest Chair. The other kid.
You see how he needed to pause and look at the audience and wait until they stopped laughing? That's absolutely crucial. If you start talking while they're still laughing, have you heard the expression stepping on someone's laughter? They're still laughing and you step on their laughter. It is impolite. I did not want to do that while I was speaking. So that's why I added something on the spot. Now, what I'm going to show you, if you read the text of my speech, I say, now this is a part where it's very emotional, but I try to bring humor in it. So my aunt has just died, and we don't know what's going to happen. So what's going to happen? The lines are, who's bringing the chairs, who's bringing the games, and I'm thinking, who's making the cake? This is potentially funny. Sometimes I get huge laugh, sometimes I get a smile, sometimes people cry. I don't know how they will react, but I knew that no matter what I did right after that, it needed to match whatever the audience said. If they laugh, because I don't want to say something like, hey, that's really funny, right? If they're not laughing. And I don't want to say, oh, that really made you cry, right? If they are laughing. So I needed to do something that would match no matter their reaction. And also, I did not want to step on their laughter if they were laughing. So right after I say, who's bringing the cake? The next line is, I wanted to do my part. And that is an important line. I did not want them to miss this part. So listen to what I say just between those two lines.
Her brothers and sisters scramble to keep the tradition going and to hold the family together. Who's hosting? Who's bringing the chairs? Who's preparing the games? And I'm thinking, who's making the cake? Well, it's important. It's tradition. I wanted to do my part. So
well, it's important. It's tradition. Those words are not essential to understanding the speech and the message. They are throwaway lines, lines that don't matter if you miss them. See, there's a big problem with hybrid settings or online presentations. Sometimes you will miss some of those lines. When you're preparing your speech and you've got it written down, or you're imagining what you are going to say, think about those key lines. If you don't see the audience, is it possible that a reaction that comes right before it will make them miss those key lines? Try to have a throwaway line, because then it gives a cue. It gives a cue to the audience to say, oh, she's talking again. I better listen. So even if they miss that line, they will not miss the next one. So that's how I was able, I think, to simulate that I was in the room, or that I could hear the audience, by having those throwaway lines and by reacting, my reactions were always compatible with the audience's reaction, no matter what it was. And that's why I got some comments like, I thought you really did see us. Right? Okay. Now we could go into so many more details of how to use the stage, the space, and how to set up your lights to look your best. But I will leave that to people who want to reach out to me later and see if they want to continue the conversation. If there are any questions that are in the chat or directly talkative, I could take some questions at this moment. Is there someone to read the questions on the chat?
Thank you so much for your superb and insightful sharing, Alexandre Matte DTM. Now it is time for the question and answer session. Is there any question from the floor? To distinguished Toastmaster Alexandre Matte, you may type it. Oh, here we have one in the chat box. Let me read it for you. First one, which speakers inspired you to compete from DTM RAM?
Which speakers inspired me to compete? Well, that's a good one because there are many. The first one is one of my mentors at my local club, Voix du Nord, Sue Grisé. She's the one who started me competing. I think I probably told her, no, I don't want to compete. I don't like competition. I don't want to go against other people. But she made me realize, and she told me simply, it looks like you really enjoy, reaching goals and becoming more effective public speaker. By joining the contest, it will go much faster. And that's what I noticed by competing the first time, trying to take one message or one speech and making it better, but even by going in details of sentences and words sometimes, it's a great way to compete. But other than that, most of the world champions that I've seen in the past and that I continue to see, they are always an inspiration. To see different ways of doing it, it's really great. At first, I tried to emulate or to copy some styles like Craig Valentine, but I quickly noticed that it wasn't me. So it's a good idea if you do have, if you have some inspiration when you're looking at someone, try to find someone that has a completely different style and see if maybe you can be inspired by different speakers. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. And next, for the second question, we have here from Toastmaster Donna. Any thoughts on limited space, like having beds and cupboards everywhere?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Limited space, beds or cupboards everywhere, crowded rooms.
Oh, you mean how do you do if you're in a physical space and you don't have enough space? I remember competing against, with someone who I told him it's better if you stand up, it will look better. And he said, I can't, if I stand up, I won't be able to move around. I can't change my camera. So the same concept applies. If, I'm lucky enough to have a medium-sized space here at home, so I can move around, I can go really close, but it's still not as big as I would like. So I play with what I have. If you have an even smaller space, then maybe it's an opportunity for you to be even more creative with that space. Can you play with your face, for example, with your facial expressions? Can you go even closer to the camera? Maybe you can have some props that you can play with. Try to be more creative because of your limitations. Great creativity what did I say? Great innovations come from great limitations. Now, Titin, I know that there was a question from Adrash before I even started speaking.
Okay, let me check. While waiting for me, checking for others' question, I saw that DTM Michael Weather raised his hand. Would you like to raise your question, DTM Michael?
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Alexander, I think that you were right on target with the ironing board and boxes and trash cans in the room. People do not think creative enough. Even in my home office, I still use an ironing board because it goes up and down so easy to change the height on it. What I'm curious about is you said you traveled with your camera. Do you have a particular lighting device that you also pack and travel with your camera? Do you have a lighting device you carry with you?
Well, I do. And by the way, Michael, it's a pleasure to see you. I know you're very active online. I see your posts very often. I did for the World Championship. I don't have it here, but it was a small LED panel that I had. And actually, I can even show you. So it depends where I am going to be when I travel. I try to figure out what I will need. There, so this, oh, you don't see the panel, the lighting panel, but this is the equipment that I brought. So I said when I went to that hotel room, I brought almost no equipment, but when I prepared for the World Championship, I was traveling with the family. That's why I couldn't go to Nashville, and that's why I brought all of these. So I had 2 boxes full of equipment, plus that big tripod, and you can see that I'm just using a small room that was in the chalet there to get that look. So sometimes I do travel with more equipment, and sometimes I don't. So it depends where I'm going to be. But I did get these lights. So let me show you. These are from the company, I don't know how to pronounce it, Neewer, Neewer. So these are LED panels that are surprisingly light. I have not traveled with them, but one day if I need to travel somewhere and I have space, then these are very easily foldable. So whenever I get new equipment, that is one of my criteria. Is it easy to move around? Is it easy to travel? Not only for traveling, but if I want to, I don't want my equipment to take too much space inside of the house. But you know, it all depends on your budget and your space and your needs also.
I think familiarity with your own equipment is also absolutely essential in trying to go, instead of going with new stuff all the time. So if you can add something you can travel with that is familiar with you, you're probably going to be better off. Thank you, Alexander.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, next, the one from Toastmaster others. A few regular offline Toastmasters make these stereotype statements and underestimate online. Online is easy. It's the offline speaking that takes skills. What is your answer to them? Example, oh, you just deliver speech online and got the best award. It doesn't matter, you need to do it in offline. Then we will see your real skills.
Well, I think there is an ongoing debate about, and hi Adash, good to see you. I think there's an ongoing debate about online versus on-site speaking, and we saw it during the World Championship. It is, I think it's 2 different speaking skills completely. If I had been on-site in Nashville, could I have made it that far? It's possible. I mean, I did compete on site before. When I started in 2009 and I made it to the semifinals in 2012, and I almost made it to the finals that year. During the past 2 years, I was rehearsing only online. So if I was suddenly catapulted on site, I don't know how far I could have made it. It's the same thing for Cyril and for Mas and the other on-site contestants. If we had told them, okay, you're really good on site, but I'm sorry, now you have to do it online. Could Cyril be the champion now? Maybe not, because he was preparing to do it on site. I think a lot of skills are transposable. You can transfer them from one medium to the other, but it is also 2 different games. That's why in 2020, If you're able to go see the World Championship of 2020, it was all over the place. It was completely new. So we had Maureen, for example. Maureen, I will admit, I was biased. I wanted her to win because I knew her from way back. And I thought her speech was, I thought she deserved to win. And I didn't understand why she didn't place. But watching it later, I realized she was not adapting to the new medium as Mike Carr did. Mike brilliantly used the screen, if you remember. He played with his camera. Maureen did not. She pretended that she was on stage in front of people and she had her camera really far. So we didn't see her facial expressions. She wasn't really using this new space. It is two different ways of presenting. And some people, including my own speaking coach, might say it is unfair, or it doesn't make any sense to have a hybrid contest where you have some people on site and some people online, because it's two different ways of speaking. Mark Hunter, the 2009 world champion, he says, presenting on stage, it's like being at the theater. You're presenting a play in front of people and you can interact with them directly. But if you're online, it's like television. It's almost the same thing as watching TV. You don't have that direct contact with the speaker. So it's two different things. So to those people, I would say exactly this. Well, first of all, you can try it. Try doing it online and reaching your audience online. It's not easy. And if people are used to being only online, then try it on site. Try it with people in front of you. You might be surprised at how unskilled you are, especially if you joined Toastmasters in 2020 and you never talked in front of people for real. You will be surprised when you see them for real at the first time. The first time you have an in-person contact or meeting or presentation, it will be completely new to you. It's like starting all over again. That's how I reacted in 2020 when everything went online. Even with my friends, my Toastmasters members that I knew for years, I suddenly was nervous because it was a new situation. So I think it's a fascinating subject and we can talk about it for years, but I see the benefit of speaking online as, of course, the benefit of speaking in front of people in person. And I think it's good to know, to be able to do both.
Okay, thank you. And now we have Toastmaster Ilios, who is raising his hand. Would you please unmute yourself?
Okay, thank you, Tom, Titin, and hello, TM Alexander. I have two questions, but it is a very short question, so it's still related. Question number one is, how do we measure that our special gesture will be taken greatly by our audience? And question number two is, do our speech title matters in correlation with our special gestures? So yes, thank you.
Thanks. So how do we know if the gesture will work? Well, for me, it came from handing the cake. I did not know if it was going to work because that I did not rehearse. So here's a secret. If you don't know, there was really cake in Nashville. I'm not sure if Richard got his piece, but my real conclusion, the real end of this speech was something like, I might have shown the cake. Would you like a piece? If you are in Nashville, look behind you. There is cake on the table. When you leave the room today, take a piece as a reminder of the importance of traditions. For different reasons, I was not allowed to do that. So that's why I suddenly changed. So that morning of the World Championship, I was just rehearsing that. How can I do something differently? So I just added. It was a risk. I was taking a risk, and I did not know if it was going to work. Some people, just the other day, someone reached out and said, you know, I was watching this with my wife, and she tried to grab the cake from the screen. So I think it worked. The second question was, is the title important? Yes, more than I thought. I think it's big. especially if it's a speech that will be listened to and watched again and again, like at the World Championship. Because now I realize my title was not ideal. Missing Ingredient was a title that I had in 2017 for this story, when the main message was about people who are missing from our lives, who have disappeared or left us. But because my new message with the same story was about tradition, suddenly there's no direct link between the speech title and my message. So don't underestimate the power of the title, because the title is the way that people will identify your speech. And if they remember the title, when they remember the title, if it can have a direct link with your message, then it will be more effective. Thanks, ET. Good to see you.
Thank you, DTM Alexandre. Yes, good.
Okay, thank you. And we see that we still have so many questions in the chat box, and we really appreciate all of your questions. And timing-wise, we only have several more minutes left, 3 more minutes. So I invite those who would like to ask question to raise your hands virtually and unmute yourself. Anyone who would like to raise question, you may. Oh, okay. Oh, division I. Okay. Would you please turn on your camera? Yeah.
Hi, Alexander. I'm Uday from India. How do you interact with the Zoom audience? Because when you get spotlighted, you can see only one person. But when he's present, you see little boxes. Most of them, they muted that video. Like it likes a blank wall you are interacting with. How do you handle that? In real person, when you meet people, you get that nervousness, you get the real feel, and audience react, they laugh. But here it is complete silence. You don't know whether a message reached or not. How you handle that?
Yeah, thanks. That's why I say it's two different experiences completely. So and yeah, it's a big contrast. So if my screen is blank as it was for the championship, well, first, as I said, the reactions are in my mind, so I can imagine them. But another thing that helped me was knowing who was online. For that speech in particular, I'm talking about my family, my cousins. I know that some of them were watching. They actually were having a Zoom meeting together to watch the championship. So I knew that my cousin was watching. So that at one point near the end, when I'm choking up and I'm speaking about my cousins, it is because I know they are watching me. Even not seeing them, even not hearing them, by knowing who is there, that helped me a lot. Same thing with the audience that was in the room. I was in contact on Messenger and WhatsApp with people, with my friends who were on site. And sometimes they send me photos, like while we were preparing. And I had one friend who was in the finals, Linda Marie Miller, and she took photos during the rehearsal so I could see what it looked like. And I could imagine what the room looked like. And I knew that my friends were watching. So it helped me a lot to know that friendly faces and friendly hearts were in the audience as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, so thank you. And I will accommodate 2 more questions from Marutas, Toastmaster Marutas. Would you please?
Yeah, hi Alexander. I'm Martesh from India. Yeah, I have a question that in past only the contest, international champion contest, Toastmaster is in offline, but during this COVID time, it came to online. 2 times they done online, and this time they have done hybrid. I want to know in future also it will continue as hybrid or offline.
Well, I do believe that for next year it will be hybrid again. I don't know. I think it's good to experiment and see what happens with the hybrid setting. I do hope that it will be more equal next time. I hope that the contestants online will be able to see and hear the audience. But at the same time, a part of me says it is so different that it's probably better to have everyone on the same platform. Personally, I prefer in person, but maybe this is an opportunity for what we call the taped speech contest, which is not very known, to be more international. Now that we have this ability, right now the taped speech contest is, I don't think many people participate because you have to be in an undistricted club, or an yeah, that's right, in a district that is in a club that is not part of a district. So it's a different contest. Well, maybe in the future we will still have those two contests, but instead of having the taped speech contest, we have an online speech contest and an on-site speech contest. Maybe that would be the way to go, and then we'll be able to compare, as we say, apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Maybe that's the way to go. I don't know. I hope the conversation continues.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. And Toastmaster Azhar.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, Alexander. I'm Azhar from Malaysia. My question is, when you are crafting your speech, which comes first in your mind? Is it the takeaway message? Is it the title? Is it the opening? Which one do you prefer? Thank you. That's my question.
Well, thanks, Azhar. Honestly, it's one of two things. It's either the story or the message. In the case of, in the past year, it has been the message. Even though I had my story for my no-bake cake, my family traditions, I had the story already. For me, the most important thing was the message. And your first prepared speech today was about influencing people through speaking. Well, if you want to influence people, you want to influence them to do something or to think something. That's why starting with the message will give you a much more powerful speech. If it's something that's really important to you, you will do what is necessary for the speech to be really of great quality and influential. And usually the title is the last thing I think about. Was that the last question, Titin?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, there might have been other questions in the chat that we weren't able to get to, but you can still reach me if you want those questions answered, and I will save the chat, and maybe I'll send some of these answers directly to Titin, and she can send it to everybody.
One last.
If you want to reach me, you can see my website right there, alexandrematte.com, or I'll do something even better. Here in the chat is a link to an evaluation form, because with Toastmasters, we evaluate everything. If you can evaluate the presentation that I did today, that would be fantastic. You can even leave comments. You can leave your coordinates if you want to reach me. And when you do send that, there will be an extra link to have more information, including the Standout app. I'm developing an app that is not public yet, that allows you to receive direct coaching, one-on-one coaching with me. And because you've been so nice and there are so many questions, I think I'd like to do a draw among all the people who will answer that evaluation form. I will pick one and give you free coaching at one of my one-on-one sessions. And if you want more information, just follow that link and we can get in direct contact. There's the link, and I hope that we can keep in touch. So just remember, if you are presenting online, you might be presenting just to your camera, but there are people behind that camera, sometimes hundreds or thousands of people. And you can have a better impact. You can reach more people and influence more people, and perhaps even change the world when you do one thing, when you think inside the box. Back to you. Titin.
Well, thank you so much for coming and for sharing